Hey there. Today we're going to go over how to become more flexible in your yoga practice. Now, whether you're a beginner or you've been doing yoga for a while, becoming more flexible can be a little bit tricky and hard to figure out. You see other people in classes or teachers, and it just seems like it's super easy for them, and you're wondering, how do I do that? So I've got 3 big tips for you today that are going to help you progress in your flexibility in your practice. If you're new to my channel, my name is Laura. My channel is LC Yoga, and here we're doing lots of different types of yoga classes. We have a special focus for beginners, but also for those who've been doing yoga for a while. So the first tip is how to stretch. So when you're new to yoga or you've been doing it a while and you're still not feeling very flexible, there are a few things to consider. First, your genes, your genetics, the way that you're made. Flexibility has a lot to do with our muscles, but it also has to do with our bones and the way they fit together. So when you're feeling inflexible, you have to kind of become mindful of what is stopping you from stretching the way that you want to stretch. So there's that to consider, but then there's a way to stretch that will also help you grow in your flexibility, and I'll demonstrate. So if you're doing, say, a seated forward fold, Paschimottanasana, you've got your legs out in front of you, they're straight, just as the teacher says, and you start reaching for your toes. And you don't feel like you can get very far. Your teacher or maybe other people in the class just like flop right down. And you're going, that's what I want to do, right? I want to get my nose to my shin. Well, that's actually a way to pull your back and not get much of a stretch back here. If you notice when you do this, you don't really feel a whole lot in the back of your legs, but you might feel a lot in your back. So bend your knees. And this is true for every forward fold that we do, the same method. You bend into the knees pretty deeply. And then what you want to do is tilt your pelvis forward, right? And bending your knees helps you do that. Tilting the pelvis means the top of your pelvic bone, these little pointy parts of your pelvis, are getting closer to your thighs. When you do this, they're actually getting further away from each other. So you want to bring them closer together. That flattens the lower back. So now your lower back is protected. So what does that do for my legs? Well, we're going to get to that. So now you start to scoot your hips back, right? And as you do that, your pelvis is tilting forward and your legs start to straighten. And now you're going to press your chest forward towards your toes. So instead of reaching and trying to put my nose down on my knees are bent and my chest is pressing toward my feet. And now I feel a really awesome stretch in the back of the legs and my lower back is flat, nice and straight. And so the reason this helps build flexibility is because you've increased the quality of the stretch in your legs. And that's what we're going for, is quality of stretch over the shape, right? Instead of trying to make your body fit a shape, make the shape fit your body and you get that awesome stretch, and that's going to build more flexibility over time. So that's tip number 1. And to remember that in every one of your forward fold poses. So even if you're in a wide-legged forward fold, bend your knees, and you see what my pelvis does when it tilts forward when I do that, because it helps me press my chest forward, hips go back, and as I press that chest forward, now I'm getting a really high quality stretch in the back and inner thighs. If I were to round here, I'm going to pull my back and not get much of a stretch in the back of my legs. All right, so bend the knees, press the chest forward. And we work on that a lot in our classes. So if you're interested in learning more, you're going to want to subscribe and check that out because it's really going to help you build a lot of flexibility in a relatively short period of time. Now, my second tip, number 2, is time and frequency. So this is the one where you have to have a little bit of patience, but give yourself the space to become more flexible. For me, that meant dedicating myself to a daily practice. So I would do yoga every day. And the type of yoga that I did was mostly vinyasa yoga. And so in my next video, we're going to talk about the types of yoga so that you can kind of figure out what kind of yoga do I need. But it doesn't mean that Vinyasa yoga is the only one that builds flexibility. It's not. It's one of them that does. And one of the reasons it worked well for me is because it is a warming practice. So it would warm everything up and then I could stretch it out. So that's what tip number 2 is. There's 2 ways to grow flexibility: through warmth or trust. And it takes time and frequency in order to make that happen. So that sounds like 4 tips. It's like all rolled into one. So pick your frequency. It doesn't have to be every day, although I recommend it because I think it's awesome. It can be short practice, can be long practice, but if you dedicate a piece of every day to it, that's going to help you progress. But you have to define progress to yourself, right? If just becoming more flexible is your only goal, practice every day. But for me, it goes deeper than that, right? Flexibility is just kind of a byproduct of linking body and mind and kind of growing from that. And the flexibility is like, yay, that happened. But it wasn't the goal in the first place. But if you pick your frequency and it's like, 2, 3, 4 times a week or every day, great. But stick to it and give yourself time. Just simple patience is really going to help you get there. You've just got to give yourself time. It can take months, if not years. But at the same time, and this is a sub tip under the second tip, maybe think about what your goals are for yoga and what success looks like and how you define progress. Because for me, it's just about how I feel and how it looks in the pose. I don't really care about that. I'm not super worried about that. I'm not one of the world's most flexible people. My genetics just sort of keep me where I am. So you'll never see me in the deepest expression of a pose because that's just not my anatomy. I have bones that kind of get in the way. So my back bends aren't super deep. My forward folds aren't super deep. But I'll tell you, because I've learned how to stretch and I gave myself time and frequency, I've maximized what my body is capable of, and it feels amazing. Tip number 3 is something you may not be expecting, and that is diet and hydration. That is the biggest tip I can give you, and I actually learned this myself recently. I wasn't really aware of that, never really thought about it. And I'm not here to tell you how to eat. I've been a vegan for 14 years now, but up until the last year, I was just sort of plateaued at my level of flexibility. Well, I started a regimen of lots of water and lots of leafy greens and lots of omega-3s with flax and chia seeds. And I have big green smoothie every single day with those things in it and extra water. And I'll tell you, it is a game changer. So I am so much more flexible than I was. So I just get warmed up quicker and boom, my stretches are deeper and feeling even more amazing. I mean, it just makes sense, right? When you think about it, it's kind of a no-brainer that when you hydrate and nourish your muscles and your connective tissue, they're going to be more flexible, they're going to be more supple and easy to stretch. Duh! Who knew, right? So it's huge and it absolutely works. So I'm not here to tell you to be a vegan, at least not yet, not in this video, but I will tell you that the more of those things that you add, hydration, lots of water, and when I say lots, I'm talking about at least 96 ounces a day, which is a good amount of water, and I drink about a gallon a day, and lots of leafy greens, and I mean lots. I eat about a pound of leafy greens a day. I put them in that big smoothie, so I'm drinking all this stuff. I'm not eating giant salads all day. And then I put a quarter cup of flax or chia seeds in that smoothie and get all my omega-3s. Omega-3s help your cellular repair. And so that is just sort of like nourishing, allowing the nourishment of the greens to get into your cells. We're going to talk a lot more about this in future videos, but that is a way for your cells to get what they need. So when you go to stretch, you are getting absolutely what you need. So there's a little extra bonus tip that I'll give you. And that is, earlier I mentioned warmth and trust in order to stretch your muscles. We all know warmth, right? You work out, you do a yoga practice, you feel more flexible, right? You've warmed up your muscles. But there are types of yoga that are slower, that are still going to increase your flexibility. Well, how do they do that if you don't get warmed up? And what I mean by trust is when you go to stretch your muscles, so say you're not warmed up like I'm not right now, and you do your forward fold like we were doing earlier. You bend your knees, you tilt your pelvis forward, you press your chest forward, and you don't go very far, right? Not warmed up. This is about all I've got right now. This is all I'm going to do. Well, if I hang out here and close my eyes and breathe deep, right? Just inhaling and exhaling and concentrating on letting these muscles go, they will start to elongate. And I don't know if you can see it, but I'm actually starting to move forward, right? And that is my nervous system starting to trust me more, right? Which sounds weird, but it's not. When you first go to stretch, your body wants to protect you. Your nervous system goes, uh-oh, we don't want these muscles to tear or this person to get hit or hurt. So we're going to tighten up, right? Keep you from overstretching. But once you start doing that again and again with longer held poses, breathing, and imagining those tissues getting longer and longer, your nervous system goes, oh, okay, we're okay. So we're going to allow that to happen. And you'll actually feel that more flexibility comes in just from practicing longer held poses. So depending on the type of yoga class that you do, and again, we'll talk about that in the next video, whether it's Hatha yoga, Vinyasa, or Yin, you're doing a different type of stretch, but they all help flexibility in a different way. So we'll leave it there for now. If you have any questions or comments, please go ahead and leave me that on the bottom of this video. Subscribe for more. We're going to be doing more of these tip type videos, and I'll see you next time. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me. I really hope you enjoyed today's class. And if you did, please consider subscribing and maybe throw me a comment on this video and tell me what you thought. And if you check out the For You section of my channel page, you're probably going to find another video that you like if you liked this one. If you're a beginner, look for the beginner series. That's one of my playlists that you'll find also on my channel. And if you're not a beginner, if you've been doing yoga for a while, you're going to find lots of stuff here that will take you from fitness to relaxation and everything in between. So I hope to see you again. Thanks so much.